Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday night. Lovely to have you here for the Prime Time show. Some of you have been playing games with Bert in the YouTube chat. That's all well and good, guessing things like my favorite or your favorite saying of mine. Either way, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about DeAndre Hopkins signing officially with your football team. Pen to paper today. We'll talk about it together. We will also get into how weird it is to see this man in a Titans uniform and your biggest question mark on the Titans roster right now. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and I have plenty of time to do so. So certainly we look forward to getting you guys involved. Need you all to share this show around first on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen is where you can do it. Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you are on YouTube or Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Both of those things would be great. We always appreciate you doing that. And if you have a friend you want to tell to do the same, you can do just that. Nuclear XN says Houston fans be punching walls right now. Yeah, it's a tough day to be a Texans fan. Tough 24 hours to be a Texans fan. But at this point, it's, I think it might work out in your favor. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful folks at True Math Fitness in the Gulch. I'm excited to get to True Math tomorrow. I always enjoy seeing you guys at True Math when you're in there for your first workout free, or if you are a member. I know some of you have signed up for memberships. Some of you guys have checked out all that they have to offer. You can do the exact same thing and try their workouts for free at truemathfitness.com. Of course, Superbook Sports, download the app today, plug in the promo code ATOZ, and get your first bet matched up to $250. Superbook Sports with that promo code A2Z in the Superbook Sports app. So we were playing around today on the radio show talking about, well, isn't it odd that DeAndre Hopkins hasn't officially been announced just yet? And I said to Lucas, yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that it happens while we're on the air. It's entirely possible that it happens by the end of the day. I'm not overwhelmingly concerned. I just find it curious that we are, it's the NFL's worst kept secret is DeAndre Hopkins on the Tennessee Titans roster. Then ultimately he did he was announced officially today at about noon Central Time. And now people can, have that fear alleviated from the idea that he might potentially Josh McDaniel it, right? The idea that he would take a job or agree to terms on a job and ultimately not sign the contract and still have flexibility to get out of said job. But seeing some of the promotional stuff today, it made me laugh to see how many of you reacted to the idea of DeAndre Hopkins in two-tone blue saying tighten up and these kind of things. So scale of 1 to 10, how weird is it to hear DeAndre Hopkins say tighten up after many, many years in the AFC South, making your life a living hell, playing for the Houston Texans, and honestly making your life a living hell that one time the Cardinals came to Tennessee to start their season and whooped up on the Titans. How weird is it to say, or is it to see DeAndre Hopkins out there on social media, out there in a Titans uniform, out there talking about tighten up at 31 years old? We'll talk about it together. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it is made possible by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford. Go to Two Rivers Ford for quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So this was DeAndre Hopkins earlier today after announcing officially that his contract had been agreed to.
Man, I feel real good, blessed, grateful to be here. Thank you, Nashville. Thank you, Tennessee. Let's get to work.
All right, so real quick, real easy. He's blessed. He's excited to be there. He's excited to be a Titan. Let's get to work. So a real quick and brief message from DeAndre Hopkins after officially signing his contract, taking all the pictures, taking pictures with Rand Carthon, it's a big deal, right? They landed the kind of wide receiver, the kind of player in free agency that we think could make a legitimate difference. Now, how much of a difference he ends up making, that remains to be seen. But given the idea that we live in this world where DeAndre Hopkins is a member of the Tennessee Titans, still pretty interesting to see. Dr. Lipschitz says it's pretty weird. Logan Woods says a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. Dylan Cole, an 8.5. I love how he said AFC South, we are back, says Steven Snyder, 86. Well, that was a different video, but yes, he was on social media last week talking about being back in the AFC South, and I'm sure that Houston Texans fans are not excited about that idea. Jack the Ripper says it's a good weird. Well, definitely a good weird for right now, because right now is all the feel good, right? Right now, DeAndre Hopkins he's available. You're not practicing yet. You'll start practicing on Wednesday. We'll see how much practice DeAndre Hopkins actually participates in. But he is in a spot where he's going to be handled a certain kind of way, and he's going to approach his day-to-day the way that he feels it is best approached. And I'm sure the Titans will make an exception at this point to kind of allow him to manage this thing, manage himself physically the way that he feels like he needs to the most. Let me guess, the Texans think DeAndre Hopkins is still their player, a la the Oilers logo. Yes, he was photographed in front of promotional material that the Titans made for him. The photo dub that was behind him while the actual contract was being signed was DeAndre Hopkins in the Oilers throwback uniform. So at some point he is going to be in a Houston Oilers throwback, probably playing against the Houston Texans, one would think, at least one time at home, and that is going to cause a lot of pain and strife for Houston Texans fans. DeAndre Hopkins signing within the same 24 hours as the Titans dropped the Oilers throwbacks is a very effective twist of the knife in the side of one of your divisional opponents. Michael Jones says, Buck, what's up with your voice? It's running out of gas and football hasn't even started yet. So I'm going to sound like hell for the next, I don't know, basically until next June. So you better get used to the way that my voice sounds right now, Michael, because it's basically going to be like this the rest of football season, even though football season doesn't technically start for the rest of us until tomorrow. Amy is petty, says Charles Coleman. Lipschitz says she's petty or pretty. Either way, it was funny to see the reaction from Houston Texan fans who seem to think that the Titans owe them something in the way of the franchise's history starting in Houston, but now no longer being in Houston. And of course, that is one of the stupidest arguments, and the Texans fans don't have a leg to stand on. A to Z Sports Primetime is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. You can go to GaryAshton.com and get your dream address without the stress. Don't sell without the intel that the Ashton team can provide to you. The official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators is GaryAshton.com. So DeAndre Hopkins in the AFC South playing for the Titans. You understand that now it's going to allow Treylon Burks to fall into a more I don't want to say a more traditional role, but certainly a role that better fits his skill set, right? DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks are not the same kind of player, even though there are plenty of things that Treylon Burks can learn from DeAndre Hopkins. Kyle Phillips can also learn things from DeAndre Hopkins. Chigakonkwo can learn things from DeAndre Hopkins, but you have a home run hitter, a down-the-field threat in Treylon Burks, and you have somebody who can help you consistently move the chains in DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what Phillips and Chig have to offer at this point. So how this all holds up and how much it actually comes together the way that, I think in a perfect world you envision it, we'll see how durable DeAndre Hopkins at 31 years old is. It's not been really a question mark throughout the course of his career, but 31-year-old wide receivers is something to keep an eye on as far as that longevity is concerned. Now, I happen to think that Hopkins' game lends itself well to aging, but that does not mean that it's going to go smoothly right out of the gate. So we'll see what happens with DeAndre Hopkins. And either way, I'm going to be at his press conference tomorrow. We're going to rig up the radio show in a way that allows me to be at the DeAndre Hopkins press conference, even though it is at noon. So we will keep you updated on that. But I'm going to be reporting live at some point during the radio show from St. Thomas Sports Park because Mike Vrabel is going to speak at 11:30, DeAndre Hopkins at noon. I anticipate that would take about an hour of the radio show. And while you guys listen to press conferences, I'll scurry my way down there, get my setup ready for as soon as his press conference concludes, and then we'll finish the radio show live from St. Thomas Sports Park, where I will be the rest of the week doing the radio show live because training camp will officially be underway. Bryce Erickson says, I know Buck doesn't care, but if anyone else does, the Titans are 25th in Bleacher Report's power rankings. Yeah, I don't care. You're correct. But if you do, Bryce has brought that to the table for you. So you can check that out if you like. D. Henry, not that D. Henry, I assume, says, what time is the press conference? It's not a safe assumption. Twitter used to have the function when it was Periscope, when we still live stream the show on Periscope, would show you who on Twitter was popping in and out of the chat and the way that we used to have the chat set up. So Derrick Henry has watched the primetime show a couple of times. I remember being terrified, scared shitless the first time I saw Mike Vrabel's Twitter account pop into the live stream one time. It was very, very nerve-wracking because I wasn't sure if it was him or somebody who's running his Twitter account. Either way, he's out there lurking, always. Cracks me up. But that was early. Now, we probably still fear those kind of things, but at this point, I've been prepared to be throat punched by Mike Vrabel for the past 6 years. So that fear is no longer something that keeps me up at night at this stage. But as you look at the Titans, power rankings and Bleacher Report or not, the idea that the Titans are certainly more an interesting football team. 25th in a preseason power rankings poll doesn't necessarily move me one way or the other. But if you think that that is some kind of slight, or you think that's going to be used as some kind of motivation, you can think whatever you can think that is whatever it is. But in the same way that you can pick the Titans to win the Super Bowl on July the 23rd, July the 24th, you can pick whomever you want to win the Super Bowl on July the 24th. And you can also pick whomever you want to finish wherever you want on July the 24th, because these things don't matter in July. Square Up says his bus and pod was great. You got to get back on. Will and I actually went to coffee on Friday when I took the radio show off. If Robert had control of the radio show board right now, he'd probably hit me with a fine. I don't think coffee with a friend counts that way, but maybe he would see it otherwise. I went to coffee with Will on Friday, and we were there for about, I'd say, 2.5 hours. And we both said at the end of that conversation, we probably should have done this on a podcast, but it's always good to see the boys from time to time. And listen, I'm certainly open to the idea of being on Bussin' again. I had a lot of fun with what was it, DB, Darren Bates, and Will. I think Taylor was either playing football or whatever the case may be. Anyway, we certainly enjoyed it. Ricky W says, here's an idea, Buck. Less tequila, more water if you need your voice. No. Well, I mean, there's going to be less tequila now because it's football season, and I don't have time to screw around the way that I have for basically since January because your football team missed the playoffs. But less tequila, more water? No. Sometimes I need, not to sound like a problem drinker, but, on the occasion, the tequila is necessary to keep things on the rails. So I will take your advice under advisement, but whether I put it into practice or not remains to be seen. Michael seldom used. Is it seldom used or I don't know. Maybe seldom used. I don't know. It says, what about Madden ratings? Yeah, we're not doing Madden ratings tonight either. Bryce says the Titans make us drink, Puck. I get it. Well, in fact, they keep me from drinking because they take up my weekends. Weston Warrior says no cussing, please. Well, it's too late. We've already done it. Let's keep it moving on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What's your biggest question mark on the Titans roster right now? Team will report tomorrow for training camp in its entirety. We know the questions that we had going into the offseason about this particular roster. And we understood how they went about addressing them. Now, some of those moves you look at and say, okay, well, you've done the most that you can do. Some you look around and say, all right, they're still lacking in certain situations, and we can talk about that together. But what is your biggest question mark on the roster heading into training camp right now? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch is where you can go. While you do that, I will remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the best place to work out. The new way to work out for the new you is True Math Fitness in the Gulch. True Math Fitness, conveniently located in downtown Nashville in the Gulch. I'm looking forward to being out at True Math tomorrow. Couldn't go last week because of SEC Media Days, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, are my personal training days at True Math Fitness. You can sign up for personal training. You can sign up for any of their great group workout classes, the boot camp style classes that they run 7 days a week, morning, afternoon, and evening. True Math Fitness is always a great place to get an efficient workout in and to maximize your fitness goals. You can go to TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident, or check out any of their great membership options. TrueMathFitness.com is where you go. So looking at the situation for the Titans, Craig Baxter says the offensive line is the area that he has the most concerns about. Derek R. on YouTube agrees at this stage. Marcus Walker says his questions are with the offense as a whole, from the line play to play calling. And that's really fair. But I guess if you could narrow it down to one thing, Marcus, what on the offense would concern you most? The play caller is legitimate. Concern is not the right word, but a question, right? How Tim Kelly handles this, and we won't have the answer for that for more than 2 months, right? They'll need to play several games before we can make an estimation of what Tim Kelly might be at this stage. Trippin' Titan says Kelly could suck. Don't know. Oh, well, what we do know is what we're going to talk about next. This is a free site. Pretty Boy Kelly could suck. We don't know, but the Pretty Boy aspect of it is something that we have yet to talk about. Haven't had a mediocre kicker since Suck Up, says Square Up, talking about just the stability of the kicking situation. I mean, Randy Bullock was mediocre to Randy was fine. I think Randy was above average last year, and it was just a cost-cutting situation. So how they stabilize the kicking deal at this point, they have 2 young players, 2 very unproven players on the roster, 2 very affordable players on the roster, and a kicking competition will play itself out. But the offensive line is the question, right? They made a bunch of moves. They put in 4 new starters, and the one guy who retained from last year, who carried over as a projected starter in his same position, was Nicholas Petit-Frere. And PF, we know, got suspended for the first 6 games of the season for gambling. By the way, Isaiah Wilson got suspended for at least 3 games of the upcoming season. It didn't specify whether it was gambling related or not, but one would assume, because the gambling suspensions were being handed out today. NPF changed things, so now instead of 4 new starters on the offensive line, the team will have 5 new Week 1 offensive line starters. Just because the other 4 are new and in place and have been in place for some time doesn't mean that they're going to be good. They can be better than the group that was out there last year, but the group that was out there last year was damn near the worst offensive line in the sport. So I would say, keep your expectations relative. The right tackle situation is still something that has to be addressed. I heard the workout with George Fant went well. They had Hubbard, I think it's Chris Hubbard, the other tackle, that was in on Saturday to get some work in. Sounded like both those workouts went fine. I know that Fant has other offers, and that the Titans, he was hoping, would make a substantial enough offer to make it an easy decision for him, but that if they do not make an answer that is up to par by his standards, his plan is to wait for an offer that is worth his time. So it does seem like a bit of a waiting game for that. We'll find out whether or not the Titans make a good enough offer to keep him from going to another team. How many backups for the offensive line do we have, says Troy Whitlow? I mean, Dylan Radins is on PUP. Jamarco Jones is a backup. Jordan Ruse, Corey Levin. They've got a couple of dudes who've carried over from the past couple of years, but they didn't really sign any depth offensive linemen. They drafted Skoronski, but he'll start. The offensive line is super thin, so injuries there this year would obviously have catastrophic effect. We'll see how good or how, at least up to par, if possible, somebody like Andre Dillard is, but Andre Dillard is anything but a certainty. Jalen Duncan also drafted on the offensive line this year, the 6th-round pick out of Maryland. So he's a backup left tackle. I'm sure at some point, if he needs to play on the right side, they would try and make things work. But it's a very, very thin situation. A lot of places on the roster are super thin at this stage. But I think that when you look at the offensive line situation, I don't necessarily trust what's up there right now. And, I have no reason to distrust it. We'll have to see what it looks like in game action. But certainly losing your right tackle, the only returning starter of that 5-man group. Brewer is a returning starter, but he's in a different position. Does give you a little bit of trepidation about what kind of lies ahead. So let's wrap things up with, this is a free site. Speaking of offensive linemen, former Titans offensive lineman Isaiah Wilson was in the news. We'll do this here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the great people at Superbook Sports. Download the Superbook app. You can bet NFL futures in the Superbook Sports app, and they will match your first bet up to $250 when you plug in the promo code ATOZ. Superbook Sports is where you go for terms and conditions. Great odds, boosts, and promo bets are what is always on offer in the Superbook Sports app. Superbook.com, as I mentioned. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. MB says, did you guys see that the All-Pro guard out of Washington, Andrew Norwell, was released today? I did. He was not an All-Pro guard at Washington. He was an All-Pro guard with Carolina. I don't think he had an All-Pro year. So Carolina was where he was drafted. He got a big contract to go to Jacksonville after that. He went from Jacksonville, where he had a couple of solid seasons, to Washington, where he lasted a year. And at this stage, he is somebody who I would not regard him as the former All-Pro guard now, or as an All-Pro guard. He's certainly not that at this stage of his career. Now, would they be interested in him? I think they're more interested in a swing tackle at this point. I think they're very happy with what they have at the guard positions. The question is, do they kick Brent Skill out and move somebody else in at guard? I would think that they would rather keep the in-house options as opposed to bringing in somebody else. But we certainly do know that Mike Vrabel likes veterans, favors veterans, and Norwell has been around for quite some time. Let's see. Will DeAndre Hopkins do a press conference? Yeah, I'm going to be at Hopkins' press conference tomorrow. He's going to speak at noon. Mike Vrabel's going to speak at 11:30. Both of those things are going to be carried live on the radio show, and I will be reporting live on the radio show from St. Thomas Sports Park tomorrow after the Hopkins press conference. So I think that I was thinking more about a 6-game patch for NPF. Him at tackle. I need to go look. I don't remember him having played tackle off the top of my head. So unless there is something at some point in his career that I missed, I believe he's been a guard basically the entire time that he's been in the league. So the idea that he would just bump out to tackle for the first time in his NFL career for a 6-game stretch, I don't think is a reasonable solution at this stage. But yeah, to my knowledge, 127. Thank you, Bert. 127 starts at guard, 0 at tackle. So yeah, that's not a feasible solution for him. And if you guys are to be believed, some of you are saying that he's going to miss a substantial amount of time with elbow and hip issues. I don't know that to be so, but I do know that there are several veteran offensive linemen who are going to start the year on PUP, and would not surprise me if Norwell was one of them. So no solution there. But this is a free site. Best thing I saw on the internet this weekend, Isaiah Wilson got suspended for 3 games. Now, you might say, well, how is Isaiah Wilson getting suspended for 3 games when Isaiah Wilson hasn't had an opportunity in the league in the last 2 seasons? At this stage, Isaiah Wilson has been suspended for 3 games. The former first-round pick, and you would be correct in saying that he was not on an NFL roster last year. He was not on an NFL roster last year because of his own handling of his situation, both with the Miami Dolphins and with the New York Giants for a hot second. He has washed out of the league. I know he had an opportunity with the Colts, a workout with the Colts most recently, but even then, that has been several years ago. And Isaiah Wilson, who manages to still be an active NFL player in name only, but just enough in name to get himself suspended, I think under the gambling policy, if I understood correctly. I really hope that guy ends up okay in life, because every indication to me is that he is on a path that is super self-destructive. But I mean, for Isaiah Wilson to be making news in 2023 and for it to only be the fact that he is suspended for 3 games is wild to me, and was something that made me pick up my head and look around at this stage. Lou Man says we need him back. No, if anything, you no, I would say, Lewis, you do not need him back at this stage. Michael says, but I had a great laugh when I read it. That as well. Yeah, I know. Many people did. How do you get fired on your day off? It's not even a day off. He's had a year off. Been out of the league for a year. It's just it's an unbelievable situation. Well done by Isaiah Wilson. Well done. Anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow. Like I said, Mike Vrabel opening training camp press conference at 11:30. We will have live coverage of the DeAndre Hopkins press conference. I will be down at St. Thomas Sports Park for that, so you can see that on social media. You can hear that on the radio show as well. We'll have a great time doing it. It all gets started tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Like I said, have a great rest of your night, and we will have some fun tomorrow on the radio show. See you guys.
Are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal a show.